Hmm? Ah! Oh.
You're listening to the Run for Your Lives podcast.
Hey everyone, welcome to the show. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And this is the Run for Your Lives podcast.
This episode, we are talking about the supernatural horror film Late Night with the Devil, written, directed, and edited by Colin and Cameron Cairnes, released March 22nd, 2024.
So it's another relatively new one, Pake.
Yeah.
Not sure we're going to agree on this one. I have feelings about it. I'm sure you do, but they may not line up this time. I'm not sure.
Well, no, we'll have to see. This was the first time I've seen it. It's been on my radar, obviously, since it came out, and I wanted to see it, and then that's what this podcast is good for. We've talked about it a billion times, is finally making me watch movies I want to see, but just have never taken the time to do. So I'm like, I've been pushing for it lately. I'm like, no, we have to do this movie, because I need to watch it. And God knows I'm not going to just sit down and watch it on my own accord, so give me a reason to force me to watch it by making us cover it.
Not when you have so many other things that you're trying to watch at the same time.
Mm-hmm. Always 100 irons in the fire at the same time. That's just how I live life.
Uh-huh. How does that work out for you?
It's fine. I just get around to things when I get around to them.
Uh-huh.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I was at trivia last night, and I was singing the praises of Sinners, which we covered last week.
If there was some kind of statistic on the amount of times I've said, oh, it's so fucking good recording, or like talking about Sinners over the past week and a half, yeah, it's been a lot. Like everybody I've talked to. Have you seen Sinners yet?
Yeah.
Sinners. Yeah, so good.
It's a common thing to bring up. It's just so good. So I encourage my friends at trivia to watch it. Hopefully they do, because I kind of want to have conversations with them about it. But I can't until they've seen it, because I'm not going to spoil it for them.
Mm-hmm.
So, we'll kick this off the way that we always do with some production notes. It was filmed in Melbourne, Victoria, Australia. It's the third film for the Australian siblings, who have directed two other movies, 100 Bloody Acres and Scare Campaign. Don't know. Never heard of them until I was looking into this. Don't know. I'm assuming they would fit our theme, so I guess we'll see.
Sounds like it, yeah. It's like, we haven't heard of them, but you listed them in case there's the one or two people out there who do know them. They can go, oh, yeah!
Yeah.
That was for you, Jeff, Jake, Barbara. I don't know. Just naming out names. Maybe I got somebody. Huh?
Yeah. So it won a Saturn Award for Best Independent Film. The budget was about $2 million, and it grossed $16.8 million at the box office. That was kind of interesting, because I thought it was just a release on Shudder. I didn't even realize that it went to the box office or went out into theaters, but it did. It was 95 minutes long. Pake, bring us a synopsis.
All right. A live television broadcast in 1977 goes horribly wrong, unleashing evil into the nation's living rooms. Happy Halloween.
Oh, God.
It's, yeah.
Yeah, it was very interesting they decided to go with, like, having it in the 70s. And they went as far as to go back and find an actual weekend that Halloween was on a Monday night, which would be the start of what was Sweeps, which is when they... I don't think that even exists anymore.
Yeah, I don't know if it's really a thing or not, because, like, broadcast television is still a thing, but, like, not... Because even Nielsen and stuff is, like, so much of, like, streaming services and, like, downloads and views. Like, that's just become part of stuff. And, like, even with cable or satellite TV, like, streaming services that are owned by the networks. Network television is another thing I could have been looking for. But yeah, the streaming services or apps owned by the networks, like, put the shows up, like, later that day or the next day or whatever, and like those numbers are taken into account by Nielsen and stuff now, and then like DVR recordings, and like it's so convoluted that like the way that sweeps were done back in the day, you just really can't do. It doesn't work that way anymore.
No. It really determined like the popularity of a show and whether or not it could get picked up. Like it was when you did your big event, you know, broadcast events where you had crossover episodes, or you brought in a special guest star, or your best episode, something building up to it was such a big deal. And yeah, you're right. It doesn't really work that way anymore because TV has evolved. It's just different now. So I thought it was interesting that they, you know, they kind of went back in time. There were things that happened in the movie that I was thinking, it's really good cell phones don't exist, because secrets they were trying to keep around the studio would not have been secrets. Because the cell phone technology and news and people just being connected 24/7, word of anything would have spread so fast. So I think that's definitely something that they were lucky with.
Yeah, I thought it was a really interesting movie. So like overall, because you said off the top that we might not agree or whatever, so I'm curious just overall what your thoughts on it were. I really liked it, which I think you're assuming I would, just because it is very unique and it is something different. I love movies that take a swing in like a really strange direction and do something. So the fact that the whole thing is set basically as like a documentary style, like, and here's the footage unedited and what you're about to witness might disturb you kind of thing. And then the whole movie up until the end is done in that way, I think is really creative. And I love a good creative undertaking from a movie. So that was cool. And like just a lot of like the practical effects and some of the stuff. And I was like, yeah, it's just like a off the wall horror fan. This movie did a lot for me that I really appreciated.
Did you enjoy the, you know, bat on a string that was used to bring the things back into the studio after the break? They had a bat they were hanging, and I'm like, yeah, Peg is going to love that. And then the little card, happy Halloween. I knew that you'd be all over that too.
Yeah, it was fun. It's something different. And then, I mean, David Desmalchian, put him on a screen and I'm good with it. He's great.
Such a different character. That, I mean, the last thing I saw him in was Belko, but I know he was also in Suicide Squad, but I don't remember that quite as well. But it was an interesting character, I think.
Yeah. Last thing I saw him in before this movie was Life of Chuck, which I keep singing the praises of since I saw it.
You do keep doing that. I mean, that is...
It was very, very good. And I don't think I doubt we'll ever cover it on here because it really doesn't fit the theme of this podcast. But it is Mike Flanagan. So even if we never cover it, it's the official... I know Buffalo is usually the one with official stances, but the official stance of Run for Your Lives, at least one half of the hosts. Go see The Life of Chuck because it's incredible. Go see it or wait till it's out, but watch it at your nearest convenience. Thank you.
You are the number one cheerleader for Mike Flanagan.
Absolutely.
I mean, really. I was talking the other day that we still need to do Oculus because we haven't done it yet.
Yeah, more Flanagan. But then, yeah, so check out Life Chuck and you get some more David Desmalchian. He's got a wonderful little piece of dialogue that's very funny.
This movie, like, presents his character of Jack in a different way at the beginning. Like, the way that we're presented with his character, we get it in one way, one-sided, basically. And then later in the movie, you get the other side, the real side.
Yeah.
And it's like choices and consequences for what you do. And I had a feeling think that there was more beneath the surface when I was watching it. For me, it took a little bit to get going. I started to wonder if we should be covering it because it didn't seem... I mean, the subject matter seemed like it was going to be Run for Your Lives, but I felt like it took a little bit to get going.
I knew kind of what was coming to some degree, like not exactly, but no, I mean, I went into this knowing things were going to go haywire at a point. So I was like, yeah, no.
It just reminded me, honestly, I love seeing the 70s, like the 70s setup of a talk show set, because it reminds me honestly of Seinfeld and this episode that took place inside Kramer's apartment where someone had discarded their old talk show set out on the street, and Kramer had brought it into his apartment and created this whole setup where all of the characters just came in at the end of the day and sat down and talked like they were on a talk show. It was ridiculous. So it kind of gave me that vibe.
That sounds like a dream. I would do that. That sounds fantastic.
Yeah, it was kind of fun. It's one of my more favorite episodes. So I kind of liked getting that vibe again. And then there were just different things. I didn't know where it was going. I really didn't, because I didn't look into it. Chris had already watched it like months ago.
Yeah.
So I really didn't know. Like, I wasn't sure how I was going to feel about it. I'm still kind of on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
There were things I really liked and things that I was kind of like, huh, okay. I watched it. I survived it. So we'll see.
We'll find out what those things are, hopefully.
Maybe.
Or you'll just
might
say nothing the rest of the entire podcast. It's just me. No.
It could be just you. And that's okay.
Yeah. No, I think I'm going to need you to cooperate and participate.
Am I not cooperating?
Well, I don't know. You just said it might be me talking the whole time. I don't want that. Yeah, so this is another one, because we had this recently with Until Dawn, where I took all my notes and then was like, yeah, I'm not compiling anything into any categories from this point. It's like, we're just going to live tweet it.
I mean, it is a thing. I mean, are you live tweeting or live Steving? I mean, you could live Steve it.
I could.
But it wouldn't be a live Steve if you did that. It would be a live Pake. And I don't know. Yeah. I think Steve may have trademarked that, although it was us that gave him that name. We are the ones who gave him that name ages ago. So I feel like we could have a little creative license there. Mm-hmm. So you can't just say, oh, we're going to start with Jack. But I feel like we have to start with Jack.
Well, yeah, but we're just going to... So if I go by my notes, just like kind of how things come at us, which, yeah, as like this documentary style little expose or special, yeah, we learn all about Jack Delroy, his beloved radio show host who ends up getting his own late night talk show. Late night, it seems too. Because he goes by like Midnight Jack, so it seems like at midnight is when it goes on air. It's called Night Owls, which is fun. I don't know if he had any say in that name or if that was forced on him because of the cult that he was part of. Because a lot of owl imagery in the Grove.
Yes. I did wonder at one point if that cult was ever going to come back up again. I felt like it would, but honestly, sometimes things don't tie up. They just don't. So I wasn't sure.
Yeah. It seems like a really fun show. They, show all of these clips and stuff of like different guests he's had on over the years and stuff going on. But yeah, so it's a fun show, but he's just never able to measure up to the numbers and popularity of that dang old Johnny Carson.
He does try, though. He really tries. Yeah. He gets close, but he's not able to.
Yeah. I did love right off like the top of the movie during those clips, like on his first episode, the first episode he ever did. I love it because I used to watch Conan all the time. That was my late night of choice. Strangely, because usually you'd think late night shows are more for older people. No, I spent all of my time watching Conan when I was in high school. That was
Conan had some really fun things. He had a lever that he could pull, and it had something to do with Walker, Texas Ranger. I remember that.
Yeah. His Arnold impression, he's always eating a sausage. A lot of great stuff. But yeah, so Conan was mine. So I know like a lot of these. So there's always like that opening monologue, and like the jokes are meant to be cheesy to some degree. But I really loved the one where his first episode, and he was just like, I'm sure my mom and dad are proud of me or whatever. And he was like, so I know they're up late tonight sitting in front of the TV with wide grins on their faces as they're sitting down and watching Johnny Carson, which was just a great joke. I'm like, yeah.
That is a typical joke that you'd hear, I think.
Yeah.
Conan would have rocked that joke, I feel like. For sure.
Yeah, but then he would have done the weird little like hair flip thing and then the lips. Yeah, that's Conan. But
yeah, he became obsessed with flossing at one point. That dance. I remember that too. Those were the days.
Yes, absolutely. And then as we were talking about the cult kind of thing, we learned that Jack is a member of the Grove, which is this rumored, at least, occult group, but it's an Illuminati kind of thing, or like, so it's rooted in like reality of like, I know there's been rumors of like different secret societies and secret clubs and groups that like powerful and influential people, even like presidents or like high level people are part of, and like there's always the rumors like, oh, what are they doing? It's very like Illuminati coded. Things like that. So immediately, like, I kind of called some of the stuff very early on, even before the movie really even started. Because then we learn about his wife, Madeline, and, like, her sickness and death and stuff. And I'm immediately, like, literally in my first note of my entire thing was like, so I assume he's going to have to resort to some dark sacrifices to reach the fame he desires. And the start of that is this surprise sickness in his wife, right?
Yeah, because they made a point of saying she had never smoked. And usually lung cancer is something that is developed by people who are smokers. It's not. I mean, people get it, but usually you associate it with someone who's a smoker.
Mm-hmm. So, like, his wife. So I figured that out pretty early. It's like, oh, there's a darker undertone to what's going on, is his wife was a sacrifice for him to get some success that he got, but then wasn't enough. There's always more, right? So that's where we get to this. He's on the verge of cancellation. He got several more years out of it, but now things are dipping again. So he's got this, Halloween night sweeps week show that's supposed to be the big change everything show, and he wanted to go like all out with these incredible, like, spooky guests, creepy, spooky, bewitching, to do like a big Halloween thing. And then that's the thing, is because like when I went into it, I was like, oh, he has full knowledge of what's about to happen. He's purposely summoning the devil to sacrifice stuff. But then as you go on, no, I don't think he actually had that intention. It was another penance price to pay for the success he got. He wasn't going to get any more success. This was the final payment, the final debt that was due for the success he got, which, isn't that the deal with the devil, is you get what you ask for, but not quite to the extent that you want. You get screwed a little bit still in the end. Like, he still never beat Carson.
Yeah, and I feel like he expected in some way that this was going to be the last show or one of the last shows. There was something about the way that he came out and how he was introducing it that gave me the feeling that he knows the show's not long for the world. Yeah. And he's like talking about how much he appreciates the audience always being there. And so I just figured, okay, he kind of knows this could be it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, numbers weren't doing very good, so it was like, this is my big last attempt to make everybody tune in and maybe get my ratings back up. But he was kind of resigned already to being like, and if it doesn't work, then that's the end for this show, and so I have to be prepared for that.
Again, it starts off like any other, here's a special talk show, it's Sweeps Week, we're bringing people in. He brings in the first guest, which is Christou,
Mm-hmm.
this medium that can communicate with the dead. And we'll talk about him, but I kind of want to bring in someone else at the same time, just because this other person is like a naysayer, and I feel like it kind of pushes things in the direction that it ended up going in.
Yeah. Well, Carmichael, he comes in after Christou.
Yeah.
We do meet Gus, the Andy
I
Richter
loved Gus.
of the show.
Man.
Speaking of, again with the Conan reference, which he was fun. Yeah, again, kind of circling back real quick on just like, the talk show thing of stuff is, you said it was like, it's an interesting kind of different role for Des Malkian. And yeah, because he's a very interesting guy. If you've watched any like interviews with him, or just like he seems super cool and kind of down to earth, but also a little out there. Like he's just an interesting fella. But this role, he kind of dives into these roles. Like he had the late night host persona down very well. I was like, yeah, okay. And then Gus was fun, like their banter, of course. I did notice that Jack says, and only one person matters tonight. And it's like a joke, because then like they cut to Gus and he's like, oh, thank you. And then he's like, the viewers at home. But I couldn't help but think that like zooming in on Gus right after he says, only one person matters tonight, and Gus is wearing the devil horns on his head, it was definitely some foreshadowing.
And what was up with the Skull Man? This guy, I kept thinking they were going to go back to him, and they never do. He just looks incredibly menacing, doesn't say a word.
There were two scenes that they focused on him, and he was just like very deadpan and not reacting to Jack. To where I even have my notes, I was like, well, I'm very sus of that person. I don't trust him. And then like, oh, and there's another focus on him. He's going to be a thing. But there's a bunch of people in costumes, and some with masks on, because they were part of the Halloween costume parade that was part of the programming for the night.
Which they never really got to.
No.
There were things, again, Miss Cleo the singer, which I wondered, did they name her Miss Cleo? Because I think that was the name of a medium that used to be on, like, you could call her. So I wondered that. But they had to push her off again, like put her off coming on. And I'm like, okay, yeah, because things went in directions they were not
I'll say
expecting.
That's probably the best for that singer. It's good that she got sent home. Best she's not hanging around for what happened next.
Yeah, definitely. I feel like a lot of people got away, thankfully, like from the audience. But the same could not be said for some of the others in the realm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that first guest, Christou, it was interesting the way that they showed him, because the movie does a really good job of warming you up, like where you're along for this ride of like, what exactly is it? How crazy, how supernatural are we going to get? What can be? They put you almost in the mindset of like a viewer at home or in the audience, where you're like, okay, how much is Carmichael correct? Of like, it's all a hack kind of thing, and what's fake, what's not. Because Christou seems like a total hack, because the first audience member he interacts with makes him look like an idiot, which then you find out from Leo, the producer, that guy was a plant anyway and was made to like make jokes and stuff. So it's like, okay, yeah, of course.
Yeah, well, Jack makes his own joke when he's trying to talk to the Skull Man, and he's like, don't be upset, I'm just ribbing you, because the guy's wearing like a skeleton costume. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, yep, Pake's gonna love that one. I know it.
Of course. And then we get the interaction with the like mother and daughter, and that one was more serious. But then you question, is like, well, they could have been plants. And they kind of were, because when Carmichael's speaking to them during like a commercial break, and they're like, yeah, we had some PA come up and ask us a bunch of questions. I was like, okay, so, Carmichael's getting all his information together of how he can debunk everything. Which is an interesting, on this Halloween night, that Jack made the decision to hire a, skeptic to be a part of all this, like, segments to where, like, we're going to show you something real spooky and crazy and supernatural. And then we also have this guy here that's going to be a buzzkill.
Yep. He's going to debunk anything that's happening here. Honestly, Carmichael was a fascinating character.
Mm-hmm.
It just so I didn't know whether to be annoyed by him or to be intrigued by him, because I wanted him to leave things alone, but then I also wanted him to point things out at different times. So I was just kind of like...
Did you know who he was based on?
Yes, I read about it.
Yeah.
But you can tell the class.
I knew immediately because it's something that has fascinated me for a long time. So Carmichael has this situation where he's offering $100,000 at first, and then he ups it to $500,000 to anyone who can irrefutably prove the existence of the supernatural or their supernatural abilities. This is based on a real-life situation of the same kind. It was started by a man named James Randi in 1964. And so I decided just to pull the Wikipedia article and read some of that, because I was like, I could try to like do my own little thing, but I was like, you know what, just here's the Wikipedia. So the $1 million paranormal challenge was an offer by the James Randi Educational Foundation, JREF, was to pay out $1 million to any famous person who could demonstrate a supernatural or paranormal ability under agreed upon scientific testing criteria. So a version of the challenge was first issued in 1964. Over 1,000 people applied to take it, but none were successful. And then the challenge was terminated in 2015, so it ran for quite a while. But the way it started, James Randi developed the idea for the challenge during a radio panel discussion when a parapsychologist challenged him, James Randi, to put his money where his mouth is. So in 1964, he offered a $1,000 prize, soon increased it to $10,000, and then later the Lexington Broadcasting Company wanted him to do a show called the $100,000 Psychic Prize. So they added $90,000 to the original $10,000 raised by Randi. And then finally in 1996, one of his friends, the internet pioneer Rick Adams, donated $1 million for the prize. So the prize is sometimes referred to as the Randi Prize, but again, it was terminated in 2015. So recent history that, I guess, recent 10 years ago. Still pretty recent, I guess.
What
it feels
are you talking about? 2015 was last year, wasn't it?
I know, it feels like it was very recent. But yeah, so all the way up until 10 years ago, that was still on the table. You could win $1 million from the James Randi Educational Foundation for proving supernatural paranormal activity, and nobody ever did it.
Yeah, I found that incredibly interesting, that no one was able to pass the test or, like, succeed at it.
I don't find it that just...
You don't?
Because I'm definitely a skeptic as well. Like,
You're a skeptic, okay.
I'm a... You know, we won't get too deep into that, but yeah, it was like, because I know we have a lot of listeners and friends and stuff who have like supernatural or ghosts. Like, I'm a very non-spiritual person in almost like every aspect. I don't believe in anything. Like, there's no ghost, there's no super. I'm like, no, just. But
okay,
I'll let people have what they have. I'm not going to try to like spend $10,000 of my own money to disprove anything. But
okay.
I don't care that much. But
all right,
fully an unbeliever in all things supernatural.
All right. Okay. Yeah. I've actually experienced something that makes me believe, but we'll talk about that another time.
Right. Yeah. So you wonder again, like exactly how much he's doing, but then you see clearly he has some kind of clairvoyance gift because something hits him really hard at the end of his little bit there, with the eyes rolling back in his head and he's screaming in pain and begging.
Like he got a migraine, like onset headache, migraine proportions. Eyes go back in his head.
Mm-hmm.
Like I thought his head was going to explode.
Right.
Like really, that's what it seemed like to me. It was rough to watch him in that situation because
begging. Like I said, accept the message of the spirit. Like somebody take this from me. And he's talking about Minnie. Somebody named Minnie. And then he's like, I see an unmarried man, but still wears a ring. And at that moment, I knew exactly what that was about. Figured that one out too very quickly. But then it goes by. And then after a little light surge, commercial break. Which I really liked. I enjoyed seeing the goings on during the commercial breaks. They cut to black and white because it's like a different setup. It's like they had like somebody who was filming like a behind the scenes documentary thing for this Sweeps Week, like big show separately. Yeah. So then they took that footage aside from like what aired live, So that was cool. Of course, Leo, the producer, is an absolute tool bag.
Oh, he was so sleazy. I just got such cringe vibes from him.
Mm-hmm.
He was in it for the money, for whatever. He attached himself, I feel like, to Jack being on this show, and what he displayed throughout the entire movie, to me, was just, he was a leech.
Mm-hmm.
It was disgusting. I think he ended up living.
Yeah, he did.
He did. That doesn't seem right. That doesn't seem fair.
Yeah. Jack was a little worried about Christou, but it's good TV, so who cares? And like I said, then we learned that Barry, the guy in the audience, was a plant. I was like, yeah, his jokes were so forced. My name's Barry. No, that's not it. Has been since I was born. It's like, okay, like, yeah.
If Jack cared enough about Christou, he would have let him leave when he wanted to. He would not have kept him out there on the stage.
Oh, yeah, no, because that's, you talk about Leo being so, like, selfish and, like, cut out. It was like, so was Jack. This whole thing, because we see Jack turn to that point. It's like, June is begging him, like, okay, we can't do this anymore. Things are wrong. And he's like, no, this is good. We're going to keep doing it. I need this show to be great. So I don't care. Jack is definitely very self-serving as well the whole time.
But they don't paint that at the beginning. Like, they don't show you that. They show you this beautiful picture of this man who loved his wife and lost her, and what a tragedy. But then as the movie goes on, you start to see just who he is. Mm-hmm. And that he's not this saint. He is someone who has done some bad things.
Yeah. That's when Carmichael, which we've talked about and like who he's based on, that's when he shows up. Yeah, he's a magician, a former conjurer who now puts his focus into scientifically debunking claims of supernatural workers, such as Christou sitting right next to him. He mentions the Warrens, which is because they show that like video of him like at this house, and he was like, oh yeah, I invited my good friends the Warrens to show up, but they were busy with something else. And I was like, that's a fun reference. We still need to cover all
the Conjuring
stuff,
all
for
of
sure.
it.
Yeah.
I was just going to say that. Every time they come up or something alludes to that or relates to that or mentions it or whatever, I am just like, the damn Conjuring. We have not done it yet.
I know.
We talk about it. It's like this movie. We talk about it so many times and then we don't do it.
Yeah.
It's like, we will do the Conjuring. We will.
Eventually.
Yeah.
Season 48. We'll get there. Yeah, Christou just continues having a rough time. After effects of whatever he experienced are still doing a number on him. I guess Carmichael's sitting right there calling him a liar and swindler to his face in front of a live studio audience. It doesn't help. Yeah. Having a bad time. And then we get the reveal that, yeah, the mini thing had to do with Jack's late wife, Madeline. Which again, I was like, well, yeah, unmarried man still wearing a ring. Makes sense.
Yeah, and he admits it, like the way that he admits it, and he shows his ring. It's like, this all just seems like things that were planned by him. Mm-hmm. Like, this is all part of his big plan. Except that there's this little thing when Christou starts basically puking up black bile. Mm-hmm. That was disgusting.
Yeah. He had a little tummy rumble.
Yes. At first I thought, man, you need to get to the hospital and have your gallbladder removed because you've got a problem. Uh-huh. I have a little bit of experience with that, so I understand. He needed to go to the hospital. Like, it needed to happen. He needed to go to the hospital before that. Mm-hmm. Like, when he was having the issues, he should have been allowed to leave, but Jack is so obsessed.
He sat back down before Carmichael came out and his nose is bleeding. You're like, that's the point where you go get him help.
Yes. You don't keep him there just for ratings and money. But again, Pake, we are a society that's kind of driven by achievements and financial gains. And so it's not that much of a surprise.
Yeah. And then I loved, because he throws up all of that stuff and they take him out and then like cut to commercial. And then again, with Gus being the assistant kind of guy out there, his job is to keep the audience warm, and you go over and talk to the audience and tell jokes and stuff. I love that they have the line from him during that commercial break that was just golden. Made me laugh so much. The Surgeon General strongly advises taking Pepto-Bismol before speaking with the dead.
Yes, I actually wrote that one down too.
Yeah.
I don't know why, because I should have known that you would have written it down. I know by now that you handle all of the comedic quotes that come up in movies.
Was so good. Man. And then we're back, and our next guest is June and Lily.
That was the first movie for the little actress that played Lily. She's never been in anything else. This was her first role.
She was great.
I thought she did a fantastic job.
Yeah.
Ingrid Torelli is her name. And, this was her first theatrical feature film, so interested to see what she does next. She reminded me a little bit of the actress in Smile 2. That was the little girl that came up to Sky Riley.
Yeah,
She kind of reminded me of her, but she played Lily really well.
Yeah.
Like, you can't really understand, is she menacing or is she wholesome?
It was very unsettling the whole time. But before they come out as guests, of course, there's the introduction, which is like the documentary and stuff that June had made. Like a few years prior, back whenever she got Lily from this satanic cult run by Diabo, is kind of their satanic priest or whatever, and they're worshiping and speaking with this demon Abraxas. I just laughed with the absurdity kind of stuff. Like in the video, you get June's voiceover where she's like, Diabo claims that anyone who witnesses these dreadful rituals will fall under the spell of the demon Abraxas. And I'm like, and you say that as they're showing this footage of these rituals on a live broadcast to who knows how many people.
Exactly. And you made a documentary tape of it. Like, are you amplifying the message? Because I feel like that's what you're doing.
Mm-hmm. So it's that dark humor, because it's like you show this horrendous video with recordings of this little girl, Lily, being possessed and clearly having some terrible things happen around or because of her. And immediately, you see this footage, it's like, oh my god, that's horrifying. Anybody in a room with her should be terrified. And then right after that, so please welcome Lily out on the stage. It's like, oh my god.
Exactly. Exactly.
Bold move. Yeah, it's like when the book compiling interviews with the girl that was raised in a satanic cult is called Conversations with the Devil. Doesn't sound like the safest guest to have in studio.
No.
Sure.
And Gus had pointed this out during one of the commercial breaks. He was not excited about there being restraints and daggers backstage, to be brought onto the stage. He brings it up. And throughout various points in the movie, he goes to talk to Jack to tell him the crew is concerned. Jack is tunnel vision, focused on saving the show, the future of the show, money, his own popularity, his own career. He doesn't care.
Yeah.
That's not what we were presented with at the beginning. That seemed this caring man who lost his wife.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So yeah, you talked about the actress. She was so good because Lily was just very unsettling. You needn't worry about your TV show. I think you're going to be very famous soon. It's ominous as fuck. I don't like that. And the way she's constantly staring at your soul right down the barrel of the cameras. Definitely a choice of she's just constantly looking into the cameras, and it's they play it off like it's supposed to feel like, oh, it's this little girl who's never been in a place like this, and so she has this idea that she needs to look at the cameras and not. But there's definitely something more sinister to that. I feel like it was a purposeful choice. It's no, she's making a connection directly to the viewers and the audience. There's a purpose and a reason to her staring right into. It's just almost like you're all part of this now. Congratulations.
Again, that's why I think it reminded me of Smile, because she's just staring at you with this look on her face that just makes you question, is she a good kid, or is she crazy, or is she the devil? What the hell's happening?
Yeah. And then once there's like, they're going to go through with this whole like seance thing and have the demon possess her live on TV and have this conversation. It's like, June is feeling very uncomfortable about it. She's like, no, Lily can be dangerous, and I feel like this was a mistake bringing her here. She's been acting more strange lately, even by her usual standards, in connection to Jack. Like, there's like, she's been like saying Jack's name, and like all this stuff is like, something is off, and maybe we shouldn't do this. So Jack has like multiple people in his ear telling him, call it off, do something different. This is a bad idea. But then he has the one devil on his shoulder, the not real devil, but, Leo is the other devil. That's just very much like, nah, he was Vince McMahon, and it's good shit,
Yeah, you know what? Vince McMahon thought the Katie Vick story was a good idea. If you don't know what that is, look it up. It's real bad. Yeah, no. Yeah.
And then we just get just thrown out there, thanks to Leo again to commercial break. It's like, oh, by the way, Christou's dead on his route, on route to the hospital. He died. Anyway, have a good show.
They couldn't stop him vomiting.
Mm-hmm.
Dude, your gallbladder needs to go. I felt bad for Christou. I thought that he went there in good faith, and then this all overtook him, and Mr. Wriggles, which we haven't even talked about, took over everything, and he ended up being the first casualty of the situation, of Jack's greed. So Jack was more concerned with keeping it quiet and making sure nobody knew.
Yeah.
Because he didn't want the crew or anyone else to freak out and stop working.
The show must go on.
Of course. Always.
Mm-hmm.
He's a ringmaster. That is exactly who Jack is. He's a ringmaster.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. I was like questioning then. It's like we get like the next segment, and I was like, what are they going to do to like do this like thing? And then because it was even before they brought up like, oh, we're going to do this like demon possession thing. So they just talk about everything Lily has been through, and then it was like, and then they bring out the skull bowl. And it's like, that's the same one from the video they showed. And then there's like, we need the sacrificial dagger. And I'm like, what kind of stupid segment are they about to pull with Lily? It was like the same bowl and dagger from the video they just showed with Diabo. It's like, that sounds like a bad idea. It's a very bad idea.
Bad idea.
Yeah. But yeah, so they like, at first, like, she's not tied up. She's, like, having a conversation with Carmichael. Talking about, like, okay, what is this that she has? And she says it's not Abraxas. It's Mr. Wriggles that possesses, infests her. And then Carmichael has this whole conversation about, like, Abraxas and this stuff with it, which, again, fun fact about all the stuff that he says, true. I went and looked it up. The term abracadabra, because that's what Lily says, is believed to have been derived from the figure of Abraxas, who is an Egyptian god or a demon, depending on the mythos that you're looking at.
Okay.
So there's some actual, like, truth, at least, like, fictional truth or whatever, like they pulled like, that is like a thing. Like there is a demon Abraxas in lore, like biblical lore and stuff or Gnostic lore.
Well, I feel like the cult leader, Sandor Diabo, is kind of based on Church of Satan and that whole Anton LaVey thing. So I mean, I feel like they did their homework. They tried to build things in there that made sense.
Yeah, everything was like a direct reference to like a real life event or person and things that going on. A lot of references there, which was cool.
Yeah. So they decide they're going to put Lily and actually strap her down.
Mm-hmm. Even after
chair.
things seem like you shouldn't, because they have that conversation about Wriggles, and then the theremin starts going haywire, which shocks Gus, and the glasses on the table burst, and Carmichael's like, no, it's electric feedback. And Lily's like, it's Mr. Wriggles.
He unplugs the cord and it all stops.
Mm-hmm.
Which, if you were an entity and you wanted people to feel like you weren't doing anything and it's all still safe and sound in here, of course you would stop having all these electric current and all these crazy things going on as soon as that cord was pulled.
Yeah.
Because Carmichael's not buying any of it. Like, he's just like, none of this is real. I can prove it. Like, he wants to be the disclaimer. Or declaimer. Yeah. He basically wants to prove everything that's done is not real.
Yeah, so that's what we're going to summon a demon on live TV. Which June is constantly being like, no, we can't do this. But I'm going to give her a little crap. It's like, she gives in to Jack too easily, so much. It's like, stick to your guns. Stop being swayed the other way. Because, I don't know, there's a part of her that I think is like, he brings up, he's like, well, I mean, if this demon is real, if you can prove it, there's a cool $500,000 from Mr. Haig that's on the table. So, what do you got to lose?
It will help sell her book, too.
Yeah.
Like, that as well. But I also feel like the two of them were in a fling. Relationship, whatever. I feel like they were in a fling together. I mean, Lily even points out she thinks you're cute or whatever. So I feel like there was something going on there. And despite her objection, she still gave in every time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And then Lily was just thrilled to bring her buddy, Mr. Wriggles, onto the show.
Oh, my goodness.
June may be terrified, but how is she going to say no to her old friend Jack and this extremely evil girl?
I mean, she tried to protect Lily, but Lily was in on this too. Like, she wanted to do it. Of course she did. This is the whole point. If it lives in her or is part of her, of course it wants to come out. Yep.
We get another great line. There's so many great, just like, quick lines off the cuff in this movie. In a live television first, as we attempt to commune with the devil. But not before a word from our sponsors.
It's also convenient, right? Everything is just so simple. Like, it's not even real. Like, it's a movie. I mean, it is a movie for us, but for the characters in this movie, this is happening to them. It's like, oh, yes, a word from our sponsors. And I expected, SOS pads or some sort of, Mr. Clean. What advertises during this type of show? Like, it's Halloween, so is it going to be a candy company? I don't know. I mean, I'm surprised they didn't put fake commercial, like really like fake commercials.
That
they didn't have that as part of it. Because I think it could have been interesting. Like what they would have put together. Because AI did all of their cards. Like the in-between, like coming back and everything. They used AI for that. Mm-hmm. So I'm interested if they could have created some AI commercials.
Yeah. I don't know. I think when they made this movie, the AI video stuff wasn't anywhere as good as it gets now. And it's still choppy and iffy now.
It really is. The music has gotten better, but not video. But I expect in the next couple of years, AI video will definitely step up.
Yeah, and so Gus is continuing to be more and more uncomfortable with summoning the or a devil on the show. And he knows about Christu. Somehow Gus has found out. So he's urging Jack to stop this and cut it out, but Jack's not going to let anything stop him. He needs this show to do big numbers, and right now we're on the brink of something huge.
Yeah, huge, all right.
Mm-hmm. So they're going to do this possession, and Lily is way too happy to be doing it. She's the giddiest satanic conduit there's ever been.
I don't know. Reagan was pretty giddy. But we haven't covered The Exorcist yet.
We have not.
Have you ever seen it?
I've never watched it in its entirety, no.
Yeah. It's going to be one of those situations where we're going to have to cover it so you actually have to watch it because I feel like it's a rite of passage.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
No. So first I thought you were talking about Ronald Reagan, and I was like, that he could also have been a conduit of Satan, so. No. You know, you're not wrong. No,
I'm talking about Linda Blair's character of Reagan in The Exorcist. Different Reagan completely.
Different. Yeah. So yeah, the demon is here, and its purpose, Jack. Good to see you again, Jack. That scene was awesome. I don't believe we've been acquainted. Don't be a fool. Which I noticed that first time, that little glitch and the face appear. So because I'm watching this at home, I had the ability, which was then funny. I was laughing because then later on in the movie, Jack does the same thing I literally did, which is where I rewound it and paused it and then frame by frame went through because I was like, I got to see this face that pops up for a half second. And yeah, so I was like, yeah, that's the dead face of Madeline.
You might be a nerd, Pake.
Just a little bit.
You might be a nerd, and I think that's fantastic. Because I didn't do that, but I've done it before for other things.
Yeah.
So I totally get it.
Yep. So I was like, yep, that's what that was. Yes, don't be a fool. We go way back. We met amongst the tall trees. And I was like, yep, as I knew he was definitely up to something out in the grove. For sure. And then full demon mode. Your mother sews socks and heck. No, but yeah, which I do love that they played on like the live TV censors.
The first time she says fuck, they don't.
Because because this is in 1977, this is prior to TV deciding to do a
tape delay.
Like just like a few seconds. Like usually it's like 3 to 10 seconds, depending on whatever. There's a tape delay for a live broadcast. That if something like that happens, an audio engineer has a moment to be able to bleep or censor something at the right moment. I think this is prior to that, where it was very much just like live on air. So I like that they play with that. It was like, Jack and June went up the hill to fuck each other's brains out.
Yep.
And you get it that first one, and then the second time she says it, the audio engineer was ready for it, and he hits the bleep on it.
Yeah, I noticed that. TV has evolved since then, Pake. It has evolved.
Yes.
I like that the way it was filmed, like even, it didn't like have the feel of the 70s in that the quality was low, but it had a feel of the 70s in just, I don't know if it was a filter over it, but it still felt kind of like oldish to me. Just not pixelated or like VHS tape quality. Like it wasn't like that. It just had this vibe that was a little bit different to me.
Yeah. Yeah, and Lily, or this demon, Mr. Wriggles, saying this stuff to Jack about, Madeline, and, you fed off of that sacrifice to have your success, but it's done and it wasn't enough. And yeah, I was like, yep, saw that. And then I had to laugh again because during this whole crazy rigmarole of what's happening, I had to look in the background, and you see Carmichael sitting back there, sitting arms crossed, shaking his head like a disappointed father.
Yep.
I was just laughing. Because in his head, he's like, well, that's the best you got? Voice effects, floating chair, LED lights. Yeah, okay, whatever.
I'm going to disprove it for you. Jack is rattled. Like, he's rattled by these things. This is more than he bargained for. He wasn't expected to be called out or have any of this pointed out to him.
Yeah.
Especially, his wife.
But he leans into it instead of being rattled to the point that he's like, oh, Gus was right. We should call this off. He's like power hungry. He's like, that was terrifying. And terrifying means ratings. People are going to talk about it, and people are telling people to tune in. Who cares if a bunch of really deep personal stuff was just like brought out? Even to the point he goes, we got to do this as a regular segment. I need the two of you to keep coming back to the show regularly.
Right. So, and she's like, no. And then Leo even says the same thing to him. Like, she needs to come back. This needs to be something. And yeah, you can't
do a live demon possession on TV every week. I know this is the 70s, but Jack Delroy is going to single-handedly start the Satanic Panic a decade early.
Yes. Yes. And having lived through it, nobody wants that.
Except it was like a legitimate one because it was real.
Yeah.
Not all the made-up baloney that people were afraid of back in the 80s and 90s.
Man.
Like Pokemon. Yeah, and then, Leo, if Minnie were here, she'd be saying, you get out there at midnight, Jack, and you knock 'em dead. And I was like, maybe, just not figuratively, perhaps.
Yeah. No, I don't think that's what she had in mind. We learned, too, that their marriage or relationship was not what it was presented to be. Because they were presented to be this in-love couple and devoted to each other. And it was pretty much alluded to or said he was having flings. Like, he was not faithful to her at all. But he was part of that men's club. The Grove. Makes me think of the Stepford Society, which is another movie we need to cover. It's quite, yeah.
Yeah. And I do like, Carmichael feeling very certain of himself that he can debunk everything that just happened with Lily. And poor Gus gets wrangled into that.
Gus did not sign up for that. He was dragged into that. And how gross. The whole thing was gross. All I could picture is, yes, if this were me, I know exactly what would be there. And no, I don't think so. It's not
don't want them in you.
I don't want them in me.
Yeah. Which I will say, because I guessed so many things, so I like that the movie did swerve on me and do something I didn't, because I was making guesses in some of my notes, so I skipped over them earlier, but I was like, oh, he had to like sacrifice his wife, right? And then I was like, yep, that's definitely what happened. And there's like a couple other things. I was like, oh, this is what's going to happen. And then it would happen. So I thought I was on a roll. And so here's a guess that I had that didn't come to fruition. Because I said, oh shit, Carmichael's going to hypnotize Lily while she's unrestrained and actually have the demon take possession again, isn't he? Because she's watching the Watch and the Spiral on the stage TV. As he's trying to hypnotize Gus, he's going to get Lily and she's going to transform again. But no. They weren't going to be that predictable. Cool. They did switch it up on me on one thing I was guessing. But he did successfully hypnotize almost everyone with beautifully grotesque worm horror bursting out of Gus.
Poor Gus. Right from the beginning when they were talking about the worms, I just knew. Mm-hmm. I'm like, why are you doing this to him? And then trying to figure out, oh my God, he's ripping his guts out. Is that really happening? Or is it a vision, or is it part of the hypnosis? And who's hypnotized? Is it Gus, or are we hypnotized? And it turns out we were hypnotized.
Yeah.
Gus doesn't even know it was happening. I'm like, thank goodness for his sake. Except they show it to him.
Yeah, so now he has to watch.
Ugh, how disgusting. Like, he is freaking out. Like, I don't like worms. And I'm like, yep, so let's sit down and make him watch it.
Of course, he didn't have to see that part, because when Gus watched it, it was just him clawing away at his stomach with nothing actually happening. So at least he didn't actually have to see anything. So
no, only the one that came out of his neck.
Yeah, but he didn't remember any of that. So
no,
that's good.
That's good.
And then, as I said, Jack ends up doing exactly what I did earlier in the movie and taking the scene frame by frame to see the face. But also, we got something new that was not in that original frame in the movie, which is Minnie standing right there at his side with her hand on his shoulder.
Mm-hmm. And that rattles him. Mm-hmm. Like, he's having to face some things, I think. This whole movie, he's getting reminded of things. Not the wholesome Jack. We're talking about the Jack who did bad things. And he has to keep facing it. And I feel like Madeline or Minnie is a reckoning for him, or a reminder of his misdeeds, and he's getting hit in the face with it over and over.
Yeah. And then, so they go back and they so they show the footage of what Carmichael did to Gus, and everybody watching and was like, see, it was hypnotism, because when you actually play the footage back, it didn't happen. People were hypnotized. And so Lily has this idea of like, we'll go back and show my possession, and you'll see that you people weren't hypnotized. It actually happened the way it did. And so when that video footage shows what happened, Carmichael still, so instead of believing it, he's like, so Jack's in on it. It's all a ruse. You had them come into the studio before everybody else, and you filmed it, and you swapped a tape, and it's, like this whole thing, like, he's making excuses for everything. He's like, so it's just been a ruse the whole time, and there's, you have a tape that was pre-filmed, and you did this, and there's all this, and I was like, yeah, no, I have a feeling that once he realizes that it is real, it'll be too late for him, and yeah.
Yeah, I think so too. I think he honestly was a catalyst in some ways, because he kept pushing the issue on things. And even though at the end I feel like he tried to pray for his own life to be spared, but the demon was not gonna renege. I mean, the demon was definitely going to take him out. He'd been a nemesis, like fighting against him, or rather trying to disclaim everything that was happening in front of him. Like, he had a reason for everything.
Yeah.
It's interesting that he became a skeptic, especially because he's, through hypnosis and things, he was talented to be able to, like, do things.
It's like how much money and stuff he was making being one of these charlatans that he speaks against now, but yeah. I don't know, it's like my good friend Jeff, who used to be a street preacher and now spends a lot of time debunking things and being like, yeah, whenever you see people preaching this, and that, and the things you feel, it's like, that's because of XYZ, and it's all mental and emotional manipulation. He has a whole formula and stuff. So it's kind of the same thing where it's like you spend so much doing something and fooling people, and then you're like, all right, now that I know the tricks of the trade and I realize that it was wrong, I'm going to put that on the table for everybody.
Expose it.
You don't get fooled by the other people who were still doing it. Yeah.
You're going to expose it. You're going to put it out there for the world so that, like you said, no one is going to fall victim to it, because it's going to be out there and known that this is a situation. Yeah. It's sad to think that people use that to prey on others. Mm-hmm. Like, use a mental, emotional things like that to manipulate. And good on Jeff for, like, I mean, is that some form of deconstruction that he went through, maybe?
Oh, for sure. I mean, point, yeah.
Yeah, to get to that point. It's too bad. I think that there are good things that can happen, and then there are a lot of bad things, because I think it really depends on the person and their motives. And there are a lot of people out there with really shitty motives.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. But yeah. Back to the movie and the great, violent, gory wonderfulness that is, Lily just absolutely crackling with electric energy, whatever all that was. All hell breaks loose. Her head splits open in a display of terrifying light and color. She just starts taking people out. Gus gets his neck snapped. June gets her throat slit in the air by her necklace. Carmichael gets baked, not in a fun way.
Yeah, no drugs were used in this.
Mm-mm. Well, I don't know. Some of the writing might have had some help. Are
you saying that they may have been high when they wrote some of it?
I mean, how do you come up with some of these things, right? You got to have a little extra oomph.
Is that what they're calling it now?
Sure. If I'm them. I mean, yeah, it was quite the show. Ends and static and technical difficulty screen. I mean, what more can you ask for a sweep broadcast?
Well, I mean, Leo does try to drag him back, but he stays right there watching Lily. And then it's like he's transported or teleported into a pretty twisted version of his TV show where things aren't the way that they were presented to us in the beginning. Like, instead of, like, I think it was a tarantula. It's a big worm that looked like the thing that was coming out of Gus's eye.
Yeah.
And Jack is dressed up like a caveman during that skit with the woman about cooking. And
yeah, it was just a big fever dream. And going back through a nightmare version of the show's history, all the way back to when he signed the first contract. And then it cuts even before that, where he makes his literal deal with the devil amongst the tall trees with the grove, with his wife's life as the sacrifice for success, that there's always more. And he's like in this crazy like fugue state kind of thing where he's riding the line between reality and memory. And when he finally snaps back, he's on his empty TV set with the dagger in his hands and plunged into the chest of the girl Lily, and the dead bodies on stage around him. And then you hear, I love the way that they ended this movie. It's just like on like a very solemn, and you're in that headspace where he is, where he's just, you hear the sirens, the police sirens and stuff like approaching, and he's just muttering to himself like a sentence that really grammatically and everything doesn't even make sense. But he's so frazzled that he just keeps going, dream or hear, awake, dream or hear, awake, dream or hear. And like that, like,
yeah.
And then end transmission. So it is done.
In his dream, he thinks he's stabbing his wife.
Mm-hmm.
But then again, it cuts to him and he's stabbing Lily. So it's, yeah, I think you're right. I think this was the end sequence for what he had to pay, his cost for the success that he did get. Even if it wasn't what he wanted, as much as he wanted, that was the cost.
Yeah. But that's it. We did it. So, yeah. Question, yeah. Because you said you're still on the fence early on. So now that we've thoroughly broken this one down in our way, where are you at now?
You know, it's not The Ritual. Okay? Which is the time that I changed my thoughts on it based on our conversation. Like, that was a movie that I did not like. I did not want to cover, really. But we covered it, and I ended up liking it because we covered it.
Yeah.
I like it more. I don't love it, but I like it more. Like, I think there were a lot of good points. I will say, one of the interesting things I uncovered is Ian Bliss, who played Carmichael. He was supposed to be playing another character in the movie. He was not even supposed to be playing Carmichael. And he didn't even find out that he was going to play that role until 4 days before shooting started.
Huh.
And so he came in and had to take it over. And this basically, the actor that was supposed to play him dropped out at the last minute. And so I don't picture anyone else playing that part because the way he played it was so perfect.
You would never know that because, yeah, it feels like he was handpicked perfectly for that role. So that is wild because he's definitely one of the biggest highlights of this movie. I mean, the whole cast was great. Like,
yeah, but he's definitely a highlight. Again, I was annoyed but intrigued by him at the same time. Stephen King also really liked this movie. Yeah. Like, he had posted on social media, he really encouraged people to go and see it. He had gotten an advance copy and he felt so strongly about it that he encouraged people to go and watch it, which I think is...
It's high praise.
It's cool. Yeah. I mean, the king.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of Stephen King, and highly recommending and praising movies, go see The Life of Chuck. I already said it, but I'm going to just say it again. We're gonna throw it in there. Watch it as soon as you can. Do it.
I have to go see another movie, Pake, before that.
Double feature it. Just do them both.
Not enough time in the day.
Spend a day at the theater. You figure it out. Just cancel everything else. Just do that. Anyway, there goes the feedback phone.
It is. All
See if
right.
anybody has some thoughts on this one. Maybe the devil will call in again. It's been a while since we've heard from him.
Oh my gosh.
All right, we do have some feedback this week. One for this week's episode, Late Night with the Devil, but we are going to backtrack a little bit. We've got a couple of pieces of feedback for last week's episode on Sinners. So I'm going to go ahead and give a little bit of a warning right here off the top for that feedback, that if you are listening to this week's Late Night with the Devil episode and have not watched Sinners, there's some spoilers and big stuff in the feedback for Sinners on this. So if you haven't watched Sinners and don't want spoiled, or I don't care if you want spoiled, don't get spoiled if you haven't seen it. Go watch it. Then go ahead and skip forward for a little bit. You can skip feedback this week and then go watch Sinners and then come back if you want. But you've been warned. Sinners spoilers incoming. So I'll go ahead and take this first one from Tony. Tony says, I just listened to Sinners and I had to say something. Anyway, thanks for the shout out. I laughed out loud when I was listening. You know me so well. Of course, I saw this movie, and as soon as I saw you were covering it, I had to skip ahead and listen. I really don't have much to add, but I did want to mention a few observations. First, the fashion Smoke and Stack wore different styles of clothing and hats to represent the gangsters they were working for back in Chicago. That Stack always rolled Smoke cigarettes because his brother had tremors from PTSD from the war, and at the end after the shootout with the KKK, he tries to roll one and can't, so he asks for a cigarette from that man before he kills him. The scene with Annie holding their baby and Smoke dying. She says something about putting out that cigarette before I hand you the baby, and that it was more about going into the afterlife together as Elijah and Annie. No bad habits and no more gangster ways. Also, the music has such history that you can look up. I found it so fascinating. Great movie, definitely a favorite. I will probably be able to watch this one multiple times and find something new.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I need to revisit it again because I loved it. I'm
Definitely.
really looking forward to our end of season lists and things that we put together because I have a feeling this one might come up quite a bit.
Yes.
We also heard from our good friend Derek, who's from TV Podcast Industries.
Yeah.
And he said the following: great chat as always, and I absolutely loved the movie. You called out in the commentary the Chow family have the stores on opposite sides of the street. I learned after watching that this was because of segregation. The Stacks are only allowed to go into one store even though they want to speak to Grace Chow. They have to send their daughter to get her rather than going to the whites-only store. Just another of the little period-accurate details that are everywhere in the movie. My favorite is the car that the brothers drove was a Patterson Greenfield automobile, the first car built by a black-owned manufacturer in the U.S.
That is great feedback, Derek, and I honestly didn't even think about that, when we were covering the movie, so for you to point that out, like, in retrospect, I'm like, duh, that makes sense. Think of the time period.
Yeah.
But, I didn't even think about it at the time, so thanks for that, that little factoid there, that's really cool. And also the one about the car is really cool. Ryan Coogler definitely puts in the work, so...
He does. I'm looking forward to whatever he comes out with next.
And then we have one more for this week's Late Night with the Devil, as I said. And, of course, we're doing feedback for a movie. We're going to hear from Catherine. Says, I vaguely remembered the ending, so during this rewatch, I focused on Jack's reactions. What I initially saw as innocent curiosity and surprise toward his guests turned out to be the realization that his sacrifice was catching up to him. I cringed when they cut their palms and rubbed them together. Why is it always the hands? I appreciated the owls at the ceremony once I realized the show was called Night Owls. Quite clever.
Thank you, Catherine. And thank you, Tony and Derek, for your feedback on Sinners. We really appreciate it. And if you'd like to submit feedback, you can go back and submit feedback on any of our past episodes at any time. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram at Run For Your Lives Podcast, or you can email us, runforyourlivespodcast@gmail.com. You can go to runforyourlivespodcast.com for all the links you'll ever need. And if you're enjoying the show, tell your friends. We are available on all the podcast players, including Apple, Spotify, YouTube. If you feel so inclined, give us a review on Apple Podcasts, as that is the best way to share the love and get us out there even more. We really appreciate it.
Absolutely we do. And of course, speaking of sharing the love, we got to give those shout outs to things going on in the Podcastica universe around us and beyond. A lot of fun stuff. Of course, go check out the cast of us right now as Ben and Alex have wrapped up their coverage of season 2 of The Walking Dead, Dead City. So they've got their season finale feedback and a season overview episode for you to go check out. So definitely check that out. And then that podcast is kind of chilling for a little bit. And I know we have, Last of Us season 3 coming eventually. Some more stuff. I know Daryl Dixon, season 3 has been announced. So that's coming up in the near future. So I'm sure they'll be doing some coverage and stuff of that. So that podcast always stays busy doing something every now and then. And I'm sure Jason and Lucy will be getting back to their Walking Dead rewatch over there as well soon enough. So be on the lookout for that.
So you know what other podcast is coming back? Let It Rip, which is the Bear podcast, which is Lucy and Peter, is coming back because season 4 of The Bear just dropped. People are talking about it. I've not watched it, but I did learn that the episodes are only a half an hour.
Yeah, I need to jump on it. I haven't started season 4 yet, but I've got to do a binge in the next couple days because I think are they recording? I think they're releasing on Saturday. So tomorrow, their first episode of this season for the podcast will be up. And they're covering the first 5 episodes together. Marathon kind of thing. So check all that out. I've got to do some binging. So episodes 1 through 5 of season 4 of The Bear will be covered on this first episode coming up soon, this weekend. Get on that. And it's really cool. I love that they did last season because they do a little different spin on just the podcast. They break down the show. They talk about the episodes, but also because it is a very foodie show about very foodie people, and Peter and Lucy are quite foodie as well. Each episode, they also make dishes and cook food and take you on their journey of creating and making food on the podcast, usually based on dishes and recipes and stuff from the episodes that they're covering. So
yeah,
really, really cool stuff.
That's awesome. I'm glad that the show is back. Now that I know the episodes are only half an hour, maybe it's something that I can actually binge.
Yeah, most of them are. There's a few bigger episodes that are, but yeah, great. It's a great show. Why have you not watched it yet? Get on it. It's not like you have other things that you also need to be watching.
What, you mean like Squid Game? I had to binge that.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah, speaking of Squid Game, Squid Game cast is back right now. Squid Game season 3, final season on Netflix right now. So season 3, episode 1 is up right now. You can go check out Jason, Daphne, and Veronica on that one. Yeah.
Episode 2, which is Jason and Veronica, that should be up not long after this episode comes out on Friday. So I expect that will come out. I'm not on the episodes this season except for the beginning and the end because I know myself. I have no willpower. Also, spoilers are everywhere. And so I chose to just do the first and the last one because I didn't want the show to be spoiled. I really loved the show and I didn't want it to be spoiled. So
yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
It's a good one. So if you're checking out that, watching Squid Game, if you've watched this season, definitely go and check out Squid Game cast. Jason and Veronica will be breaking down the rest of season 3. Daphne will be back on the finale.
I will.
So check that out. Also, Murder Magnets is over here on Podcastica as well. That is a podcast, a show covering Poker Face. So you can go check that one out as well. Becky and Mandy over there. They're covering episode 10 of season 2 right now. So you can check that out as well. And then, Still Slang is back, still going. Penny, Sam, and Becky this week, covering episodes 8 and 9 of season 1 of Angel. So they'll be getting back to some Buffy episodes soon, but you can go check out some Angel coverage. They like to bounce back and forth. So I love it. It's like they just pick out a lot of their favorite episodes of the universe of those shows and have fun with it. So definitely check out that one if you are a Buffy fan. And then lastly, like I said, even beyond the Podcastic universe, we had some feedback from Derek earlier. So again, speaking of him with TV Podcast Industries, his podcast, they do a lot of comic book shows and stuff like that. So of course they are covering the Marvel limited series Ironheart, which is out. All episodes are available to watch right now, and they'll be covering all of that. They did 2 weeks of 3-episode drops for the 6-episode season. It was awesome. I really, really, really loved Ironheart. I thought it was great. And so their coverage should be fantastic. A lot of really interesting things. That show delves into some really interesting kind of, mental and thought process kind of things as a show for a Marvel show. There's some really interesting topics and things in there. And of course, no spoilers, but huge things for the MCU going forward because of stuff that happened in Ironheart. So definitely, as a Marvel fan, like, get on that. It's so good. And then go check out TV Podcast Industry's coverage of it. And then, I don't know if you want more of me and Daphne. I don't know if you want to. You can. You can listen to our other podcast, Buffalo podcast with our friends Jeff and Jerry. Take a break from the movies and TV shows and all that stuff, and come join us as we just try to make each other laugh and goof around, catch up with each other over the week, talk about mostly the weather, but also, play games and just be ridiculous and have a good time. So you can always check us out over there.
Yes.
And then usually this is the part where I say, go check out all that stuff. And then, you can come back here next week. But if I told you that, I would be lying to you. You
would.
Because we are taking a little bit of a break, an off week next week. So you've got a little extra time to go check out all the other things that I just told you to go check out. And if you haven't watched Sinners yet, and then you skipped ahead from that feedback, then go watch Sinners. And then you can listen to that episode next week. Because, we got vacation. We got stuff coming up. Both me and Daphne are doing fun stuff.
Yes, we are.
That's not related to this podcast next week. So we're doing that.
Not in any way related to this podcast. Nope. Has nothing to do with a movie or a TV series.
Yeah. But I will say you can come back here in 2 weeks and we'll have something fresh and new for you, Daphne. What are we doing then?
Well, you know what? As you said, we're taking the week off next week, but we are going to be back on July 18th, which happens to be the day before my birthday. And we're covering a little film from 2009 called Doghouse. It is a British film. It is in the style of a Cooties or a Little Monsters. It's one of those comedy, horror, movies. And I had fun with it. It's one I've been holding on to for a while, and I'm glad that we finally got to cover it. So we're going to come back with that. Yeah. And again, just so you know, we are getting towards the end of the 9th season of Run for Your Lives.
We are.
And we have been doing this podcast for 5 years. It's pretty crazy to think about that, but it's true.
Yeah. It's too long. When are we going to hang
I don't know.
Well, we still have way too many movies on our list to cover, so not anytime soon.
We're going to keep going. Just not next week.
No.
Well, that brings us to the end of another fun, scary episode. Thanks, everyone, for listening. I'm Daphne.
And I'm Pake.
And if you have to run, you better run for your lives.
Bye-bye.